Hello, everybody. Now I'm going to talk about relative clauses or adjectival clauses with another word. There is a note I would like to share with you at the very beginning. Actually, when I say a clause, I mean a sentence. Do you know the teacher who is teaching us math this term? See, this is a whole sentence actually, and it consists of two parts. The first part, as you can see on the screen, is the main clause. Do you know the teacher? This is the main clause or independent clause. Then we have another clause which we call a relative clause. Okay, so do you know the teacher who is teaching us math this term? A relative clause is like an adjective. It comes after a noun and it either defines this noun, gives necessary information about this noun, or it just gives extra information about it. For example, she is the secretary. Which secretary? Who helped me a lot with the necessary documents yesterday. Who helped me a lot with the necessary documents yesterday defines the noun secretary. Everybody in Turkey knows Mr. Erdogan, who is the president of the country. Who is the president of the country gives extra information about the noun Mr. Erdogan. When you just pay a little more attention, you can see that there is a comma after the noun Mr. Erdogan. So when we say Mr. Erdogan, everybody already knows about him. So we don't have to define Mr. Erdogan. All we can do is give extra information about him. But in the first example, when we need to talk about the secretary, we have to define it. We have to make clear which secretary we're talking about. So when we say she is the secretary who helped me a lot with the necessary documents yesterday, the statement becomes really clear. A relative clause is a sentence. It is not a word or phrase. It is a sentence like this. I couldn't answer the question, which was about the UK. I couldn't answer the question, which was about the UK. Relative clauses start either with relative pronouns or relative adverbs. And they do not have meanings, but functions. I mean, who, whom, which, that, whose plus noun, they are all relative pronouns. Where, when, why, they are relative adverbs. And they do not have meanings. They have functions. They have roles in relative clauses. Okay? Do not get confused about them as being used as question words. Here in relative clauses, they are not question words. They are either relative pronouns or relative adverbs. I would like to repeat it. They do not have any meanings, but they just have functions. These pronouns and adverbs do not have meanings at all. They just take the places of the nouns the relative clauses define or give extra information about. Like in the example given, the women that came to the party were elegantly dressed. That here in the relative clause actually takes the place of the women. Now it is time to talk about defining relative clauses. A defining relative clause comes after the noun it defines, and it normally starts with a relative pronoun or adverb, as you can see in the parentheses. Relative pronouns as the subject of the clause. Relative pronouns sometimes become the subject of the relative clause. For example, I hate people, they always complain. I am going to make this second sentence a relative clause, okay? So I start with the main clause, I hate people, and then I'm going to define people with this relative clause. Watch out that instead of people here, instead of they, people here, which mean the same, I use either who or that, okay, as the subject of the relative clause. I hate people who always complain. I hate people that always complain. For things and animals, we use which or that. The hotel has a wonderful view. It is situated on the shores of a lake. The hotel, which is situated on the shores of a lake, has a wonderful view. Can you have a look at exercise number 1, please? And I would like you to join the following pairs of sentences by means of an appropriate relative pronoun. So you can use which, who, or that here, okay? So what I want you to do here in the first exercise is, well, to define someone to me here. A vegetarian is someone. You are going to define someone to me with this information, okay? So you are going to be telling me a vegetarian is someone. What kind of someone is a vegetarian? Can you use this bit? A vegetarian is someone, blah, 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 blah. The man is coming towards us. Which man is coming towards us? Can you please tell the man who's coming, who the man coming towards us is? Number 3, an axe is used for chopping wood. An axe. Can you tell me, give me information about which kind of tool is an axe? 4, the nails are rusty. Can you tell me which nails are rusty? Have a look at the key. A vegetarian is someone that never eats meat. The man, which man is my uncle? The man who's coming towards us now is my uncle. An axe is a tool. What kind of a tool is an axe? That is used for chopping wood. The nails which are in the toolbox are rusty. Relative pronouns are used as the object of a verb too. For people, we use who, whom, or that. My father doesn't respect the politicians. I always see them on TV. See, as I said before, relative clause must always start with a relative pronoun. So, my father doesn't like the politicians who I always see on TV. When the pronoun is the object of a verb, it can be omitted from the sentence in defining relative clauses. What I mean to say is the relative pronoun here is optional, and you can easily see it here. If you don't want, you don't have to use them because they are not the subject but the object of the verb. For things and animal, we use which or that as an object. The novel is very interesting. Yes, but which novel is very interesting? The novel which or that I finished reading yesterday. When the pronoun is the object of a verb, it can be omitted, left out from the sentence in defining relative clauses. As I said before, these pronouns, because they are the object of the verb, they can be omitted or left out. They are optional. We can use relative pronouns as the object of a preposition too. Let's focus on the example given here on the screen. My mother bought me the book. I was interested in it. Here, it is the object of the preposition in. So, when we join them, when we use it in a relative clause, see how we make it? My mother bought me the book. The preposition here comes at the very beginning of the relative clause. My mother bought me the book in which I was interested. And see this? It is a formal way of making a sentence in defining relative clauses. Okay? My mother bought me the book in which I was interested. Let's read this very carefully. In formal English, when the relative pronoun is the object of a preposition, the relative clause starts with this preposition, and after the preposition, for things and animals, only which is used. Be careful, not anything else, only which. I would like to repeat it. When the relative pronoun is the object of a preposition, the relative clause starts with this preposition, and after the preposition, for things and animals, only which is used. Okay? My mother bought me the book in which I was interested. So I cannot use any other pronoun than which for things and animals. But we have some other alternatives, okay? If the sentence is not formal. In informal way, we can write the same sentence like given here in B and C. My mother bought me the book which I was interested in, or my mother bought me the book that I was interested in. Because I have put the relative pronouns in parentheses, I mean to say again that they are optional. If I don't want them, I don't use them. It is up to the user. Informal English, when the relative pronoun is the object of a preposition, the relative clause starts with this preposition, and after the preposition for people, only whom is used. Remember, in the previous page, when it was for animals and things, we just use which after the preposition. For people, we just use whom, but nothing else. Can you all pay attention to the example here? That is the student. I borrowed this dictionary from her. Her is the object of the preposition from. That is the student from whom I borrowed this dictionary. It is in formal English. But of course, we can write the same sentence in informal ways too. Can you see the three alternatives to the formal one? You can easily say, that is the student whom I borrowed this dictionary from, or who I borrowed this dictionary from, or that I borrowed this dictionary from. Or you can omit three of them as well and say, that is the student I borrowed this dictionary from as well. Exercise 2. Can you try and combine the two sentences using the second one as a relative clause, please? I have just written to the American girl. Which American girl? Can you define it, please? The candidate wasn't elected. Can you tell me which candidate wasn't elected? Using the information here. Number 3, the waiter is always getting in trouble. Can you tell me which waiter is always getting in trouble using the information given here? I never liked the music. Can you tell me which music you never like? Using, of course, this information here. The infectious disease seems to be very serious. Can you tell me which infectious disease seems to be very serious? Have a look at the key. The first one, I have just written to the American girl that I met on holiday last month. Instead of that, you can use who, whom as well. And you don't have to use it either. You can easily say, I have just written to the American girl I met on holiday last month too. The candidate for whom I voted wasn't elected. This is the formal way. See, for is the preposition. For people, we can just use whom in formal English. The waiter who the manager shouted at is always getting in trouble. Or the waiter the manager shouted at is always getting in trouble because who here is the object. I never like the music my son plays after midnight. Okay? I never like the music which that my son plays after midnight. The infectious disease, which infectious disease from which mom is suffering seems to be very serious. Do not forget it is in formal way. After the infectious disease, okay, I start the relative clause with a preposition, and after the preposition for things and animal, I can just use which. The infectious disease from which mom is suffering seems to be very serious. There is another one, and that is whose. After whose, we have to have a noun, actually. Okay? It is used both for people and for non-humans, I mean to say things and animals, to show possession, as in the given example below. Do you know the student whose father was the mayor of Adana 2 years ago? Do you know the student whose father was the mayor of Adana 2 years ago? The book whose cover you tore accidentally is mine, belongs to me. Combine the pairs of sentences below by using whose plus noun. Come on. It was the book. Which book was it? Have you met the artist? Which artist are you talking about? Bring me the frying pan. Which frying pan do you want me to bring to you? You must see the man. Which man must I see? He is the writer. Which writer is he? It was the book whose cover was torn. Have you met the artist whose paintings are on display in our art gallery? Bring me the frying pan whose handle is green. You must see the man whose car I just bought. He is the writer whose novels I most admire. We have relative adverb where. Of course, we use where for places. Istanbul is the city where Atatürk died. Okay. Relative adverb when. Of course, we use when for time. 1938 is the year when Atatürk died, unfortunately. We have a relative adverb why, standing, of course, for reason. Do you know the reason why Ali was punished? Do you know the reason why Ali was punished? Can you join the following pairs of sentences by means of a suitable relative pronoun or adverb? Please do them. What kind of a person is a pedestrian? Okay. Number 2, what kind of an animal is a cow? What kind of an astronomer was Galileo? Okay. Well, which astronomer was he? What kind of a sandwich is a hot dog? Right? So a pedestrian is someone who walks on the pavement. A pedestrian is someone who walks on the pavement. Who walks on the pavement, they find someone. A cow is an animal which provides us with milk and meat as well. A cow is an animal which provides us with milk and meat as well. Galileo was the astronomer who built the first astronomical telescope. He was the astronomer who built the first astronomical telescopes. A hot dog is a kind of sandwich which has a sausage in it. Five, I like the people. Which people did I like? The town. Which town was a small one? The towns were lovely. Which towns were lovely? Again, in the 8 it says, the towns are lovely. Which towns are lovely? Just define them to me. Turkey is a country. What kind of a country is Turkey? Just define it to me, please. I like the people who I met at last night's party. I like the people who I met at last night's party. The town where we spent our last holiday was a small one. Where we spent our last holiday. The town where we spent our last holiday was a small one. The towns we visited last summer were lovely. The towns which are on the south coast, the towns which are on the south coast are lovely. Turkey is a country where you can experience 4 seasons. Turkey is a country where you can experience 4 seasons. So, November 10th is the day. Which day is that? 1945 is the year. Which year? Do you know the reason? Which reason? Can you repair the table? Which table? This is the woman. Which woman? 2 ways, 2 explanations or definitions I need. November 10th is the day when Atatürk died. It refers to time. 1945 is the year when the Second World War was over. 1945 is the year when Second World War was over. Do you know the reason for which the vice principal resigned from her job? It is a formal relative clause, remember? Preposition and which. Do you know the reason for which the vice principal resigned from her job? Can you repair the table whose legs are broken? This is the woman whose daughter Ozan goes out with. This is the woman with whose daughter Ozan goes out. It is formal, remember? Note number 5. People, please keep in mind that a defining relative clause gives necessary information about the noun it defines. When you omit the defining relative clause from the whole sentence, the sentence may not be a logical sentence anymore, or the original meaning, the intended meaning may change. So, I'm always in love with the people. You can't just finish the sentence like this. I'm always in love with the people, because I would always ask you, with which people are you always in love? I'm always in love with the people. If you say this, which people? I will ask you. There is something missing here, because you need to define which people you are in love with. So, I'm always in love with the people who respect the world itself. People, thanks for listening to me.